I'm Ashley,
And I'm Jasmin.
and you're tuned into Ham Radio Stranger Things podcast.
It's a ham radio.
The Cadillac of ham radios.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Ham Radio as Stranger Things podcast. We've got a great episode for you today, as usual. But first, we have a little housekeeping to take care of, and I'm going to turn it over to Jasmin to let you know where you can find us on social media and where you can listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley. You can find us on Instagram at Ham Radio Media, all one word, on Twitter at HamThrough, on YouTube at Ham Radio Media, or using our handle HamRadio1983. We also have a Discord you can join, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you have a fan theory or question you want to share, you can email us at hamradiomedia@gmail.com. Ashley also has a fanfic on AO3 entitled Stranger Things College, which is also linked in the description. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and much more. If you like the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review. We have a lot of totally tubular stuff coming up, so be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with the podcast and all of our new content.
And welcome back to this is our third bonus episode for Stranger Things 5 filming updates, and this one we're covering weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because I don't know if any of you out there have kind of noticed or not, but as we've gotten further along into filming, there's not quite as many updates as there was in the beginning. I remember like the first 2 weeks it was like almost every day there was something. Now it's more of like towards the end of the week or like the weekend, and they seem to kind of just be combining things. So we decided, hey, let's just combine weeks 3 through 6, take care of it all in one episode. Before we do that, we did have a listener that sent us a question on Spotify. This is from Jamie, who wants to know, do we think that season 5 will be scary, or like how scary do we think it will be? Jasmin, you want to go first, take a swing at that question?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you, Jamie. We always like getting questions from listeners. Do I think it will be scary? Yeah, I think parts of it definitely will be. I'm expecting kind of more of kind of a combination of what we got in seasons 1 and 2. With kind of the horror of the Upside Down, plus kind of what we got from the Vecna storyline in season 4, kind of a combination of all those things. I think we're gonna, continue to see kind of, it's about them investigating the mystery. And then kind of the scary part of the horror of it is, what's kind of what Vecna's plan is, what's to come as they explore the Upside Down more. I imagine that stuff might be rather scary. But I don't think we're gonna see scary in the sense of like, I know people were really nervous for season 4 about, oh, they're gonna go full horror and what's it gonna be like. And that's never been the show's vibe. I mean, there's elements of horror mixed into it. But I think we're going to see, similar scale to what we got in season 4 in that sense. But, they said they're going back to their roots. So I think kind of a combination of seasons, 1 and 2 plus the Vecna stuff in 4. That's kind of the vibe I'm kind of getting from what we're being shown. That's how scary I think it's going to be. So yes, do I think it's going to be scary? Parts of it, yes. But not horror level scary, more like sort of, I think, more psychological. Ashley, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it will be scary. I don't see how it could not be. I mean, each and every season they do have their elements of horror. Though, like you said, Jasmin, they don't want this to be a horror show, but they do want some parts of horror to be mixed in, which I love how they do that, because I personally am not a big horror fan, like jump scares and all that. I don't really like that. I'm more of like into more psychological horror, things of that nature. And Stranger Things does that very well, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I do. each season they do kind of up the ante in the horror department, I will say. So I really don't expect season five to be any different. Like Jasmine, I think it's going to be maybe a combination of first four seasons in terms of horror. Now, for me, what I kind of would like to know is, are we going to get more action horror, or is it going to be more psychological horror, or a mixture of both? I personally think a mixture of both, but we'll see. And I mean, yeah, I think too, like who's going to be really scaring? Is it going to be like the upside down that's really the central parts of the horror here, and the monsters and stuff? That, or is Vecna still going to be up to Vecna-y things? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I do expect it to be scary.
Yeah, for sure. And you had a good point about the jump scares where like, something that the reason I'd never seen the show up till the pandemic was because the way a lot of people had described it to me was that, it was kind of very horror-esque. And it was about, this government conspiracy. And the way people described it just made it sound like something I wouldn't be able to handle. So I was never really interested in watching it. And then, after I saw Free Guy and, I was looking for other projects those actors had been in, I started talking to my friend Amy about it. I was like, how scary is it? Like, what, like, do you think I can handle this? And she was like, yeah, like, I think you'd like it. Like, there's a couple of jump scares in the first season with the monster. And that's about it. After that, it's about them kind of, looking into the mystery of what's going on. And so knowing that was coming, I'm like, okay, like, I really hate jump scares. I startled very easily as a kid and for most of my life. So I really don't like anything that purposely startles you. So I really don't like that kind of thing. I'm like you. I like true crime. I like kind of more the psychological stuff. So knowing that going into it, I was like, okay, like I know this is coming. I know not when it's coming, but roughly what it's going to be, and be able to prep myself. Like, okay, yeah, I can handle that. And so I've also seen people point out that season one does a really good job of like you don't see the monster till the very end. That kind of the suspense of what is this is really well done. So when it does jump out, it's not intending to like. The point is not to freak you out for no reason. It's to be like, this is what we're dealing with. This is what took them. And they do a really good job of that. But that's only something that works once. You know what I mean? Like you get one shot to do that. And if you keep doing it, it gets really fake and old. And I appreciate the show was like, yep, we nailed this. We're moving on. So I'm not expecting them to go back to that because they stuck the landing there. And we know what the monsters look like by now, right? So I'm not expecting like a return to something like that. Like you, Ashley, I'm expecting more of a, the kind of creepiness we got. Maybe scary is the right word, more creepy. Because season four to me wasn't scary so much as it was creepy. The Hawkins spot was really creepy, but like in a good way, like in an interesting way.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping for too. Something that still, is going to freak me out and not really give me a jump scare, but just something that, is creepy and has a mysterious vibe to it. That's what I want them to do in season five, which I have confidence that they will do that. So now for the behind the scenes content that we got the last couple of weeks. There's two locations that we know of that they really hit hard at filming in these like weeks three through six. When we know that because they've pretty much all but said that, and that being Hawkins Hospital and a farm. And it kind of led me to, just like ask right off the bat, like, what's going on here at the hospital and the farm? I mean, obviously the hospital, maybe more of Max, but, assuming that all of this that they're filming currently is from episodes 1 and 2, I'm kind of wondering, okay, are they like, will they be looking for Vecna from the get-go? And these are kind of locations that they're, something's been happening there. They feel like, okay, we have to go here to these locations. But this is me like going into season five knowing nothing about what's going to happen. It's just, my own view of based on everything we've seen. And I mean, we know that they know, like Nancy and them, like they know that Vecna's still alive. You just don't know where he is. And so, I mean, I kind of feel like at this point, maybe they kind of now have a little bit of the upper hand on him in some ways, and now they kind of have a head start, and maybe they're like, hey, we got to go look for this guy first before things start getting, and take care of business that way. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my theory on that. If that is what they're doing. But then I also thought, well, maybe could Linda Hamilton's character maybe own McCorkle's farm? Like there was an article that came out like yesterday or so, where she talked about that she's already been filming. So maybe I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I mean, I feel like we should. I'm still leaning towards her being in a military character, but I don't know. I mean, I want so bad for her not to be stereotyped as a character based on a character that she's played on a film like The Terminator. I would love for her to be play a character that's completely different from that, like an owner of a farm, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be cool to see her play something different. And I kind of I'm with you on that one. Like I'm kind of leaning towards originally I was kind of leaning towards her being, like government agent or something. But now as time has gone on, I'm kind of like I like your theory. I also, I think that's plausible. I think also, the what we've talked about, maybe is she a journalist? Is she somebody that Murray knows? Like something like that. Like if she's a farmer, you know what I mean? Like there's like her playing a completely different role, I think would be kind of in some ways better. And I was thinking about this, and if you look at the kinds of roles that the other, big 80s actors have played on the show, they are also very different from what they usually play. Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like I like that they, give them something different. They weren't just like play the same thing you've always played or you've played that made you famous. Like play something different, or play something with a twist on it. And I really love that they did that. And that's given them, a chance to shine in a different way. And so I kind of lean towards, or like for some actors, it's like, well, there's elements of what you've played before, but also things that are different. And I really like when they do that. Yeah, and you can see how much fun they have with it. So I'm kind of leaning towards her not being any sort of anything Terminator-esque, because I feel like that would be more interesting. And they have this is a really show that does that kind of plays your expectations. Be like, oh, you're expecting this from this actor? No. We're gonna give you this. And they do a really good job of that. So I'm kind of leaning more that way, or her being something completely different than what we've seen her in before.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know from Linda Hamilton herself in that article, that the Duffers reached out to her. They called her and asked her if she would be in the season. And so I feel like they already had a role in mind for her that they wanted her to play. And they love to do red herrings. They love to lead us on with things. I think back to Robert England. He called them, and so they were able to create a character for him. But this time, it's they reached out to her. So I feel like they definitely had something in mind and a plan. And for some reason, I now based on that and other things, I am leaning more towards her being a character that's not anything that we are going to expect her to be in this season. So on Friday, February the 2nd, we got a picture of Millie Bobby Brown with the Duffers in front of what appears to be some kind of telecom tower, radio tower, I guess. Really weird setup. It's like not even finished. The in the background. But it was cool to see those. I don't know. It was somebody said like they did that once in like season one as well behind the scenes. I don't know. I wasn't part of the fandom during season one, so I don't know. And then there was a picture of someone's shoe that had a lot of blood on it. Naturally, people flock to being Steve's just because I guess Steve's the only one that wears tennis shoes apparently. And it's not Steve's shoe. I mean, it's not even a Nike brand shoe that he wears, and it looks to be like a female's shoe. Either that or I think either a female shoe or maybe Mike or Will's shoe. And a lot of people I know instantly said like, "Oh, someone's getting hurt this season." Well, I don't know that to be the case. I think obviously I think they either stepped in like a pool of blood or something like that. But I don't think this person has been injured. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Then we got a cover of a Wrinkle in Time book, and what appears to be maybe a news clip. Then there was an anti-smoking poster depicting a pregnant woman, could be in a doctor's office or a hospital. And then we're going back to the junkyard, Jasmin. We are going back.
I'm so excited about this. I think that was the most exciting pick for me out of this bunch. The fact that we're back at the junkyard. I love that set from season 1 and 2. I just love that set so much. And there's so many iconic scenes from that set, so I'm super excited that like we're back at the junkyard, baby. Like I'm so pumped for that. So we got a photo inside the old bus from seasons 1 and 2, and we got a photo of a scarecrow between some old cars that's got a pumpkin as a head. Which made me question, like, did somebody else put that up? Did they put that up? What are they doing? Are they practicing on this thing? Are they using it for demonstration purposes? Was somebody just bored? Are they kind of like stranded or like, stuck waiting out there when somebody got bored? I don't know. Is it supposed to, distract something? I don't know. But I'm super excited. I feel like this is definitely a callback to season 1 and 2, the scenes we had at the junkyard, so I'm super pumped for that. We also got a photo of Matt Duffer in front of a farm with some camera equipment in a large field. So again, we're clearly, the farm or farms are clearly a big set this season, a big important set piece this season. And then we got a cat stuffed animal that looks like Garfield with its eyes X'd out on top of some monitors. And I saw people comment on Tumblr that I guess someone has a cat that dies in the first shadow. Like I guess that's a reference to something from the play. So I guess that's what they're referencing. And they tagged ST on stage in the photo. So I'm wondering if it might be a gift from the crew or something from like the play. And then we got a photo showing that the clear glass bowl that they were dropping marbles into to count how many days of filming had been completed had been broken in two. So RIP to the original marble bowl. They also tagged Charlie Henton in this photo. So I'm guessing maybe he broke the bowl by accident or knocked it over, or like maybe he hit something like as part of a scene that crashed into it by accident. Because I don't see why else they would have tagged him. You know what I mean? Since he's clearly not in the photo and it's a close-up of the marble bowl. So RIP to the original marble bowl. As we found out later, they got a new one. Ashley, do you want to talk about the next bunch of photos that we got?
Yeah, and then they reposted that photo to the Upside Down Pictures Instagram account. That's the Duffer Brothers production company, with the caption "Losing our marbles in week 5." So maybe that means like all the previous pictures are from weeks 3 and 4, and the bowl was broken during filming for week 5. Which, to that, Jasmin, like other than maybe the stuff in week 6. Because that, I really do believe that was in real time because it was on the Duffer Brothers' birthday. But I mean, do we really, outside of that and maybe week 1, do we really think that the chunk really between maybe weeks 2 to like 5, if that really is from like real time, or if they just like say, for example, the stuff that they posted in week 5 is actually from a lot from previous weeks, if that makes sense. Like, how are we, do we really know that we're getting stuff from that week, or if we're just getting, stuff from random times in the filming period, because, I know the internet is a place that you can't, fall into that trap. But I'm hearing lots of other reports about, well, that's not really, they weren't reported to be filming there during this week and such like that. So, I mean, Jasmin, do we really know if when all this stuff we're getting content for really, when it's really happening?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some things that, like, to me give the vibe of they just took this picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, some of the stuff seems to have been like, okay, this just happened and they posted it. Whereas other things, I kind of feel like they were filmed at different times. And then they're just kind of posting it when they can. Or, they finished filming and they're far enough away from it to post it without, like, revealing it too much or, something getting spoiled. So I think it depends. I think some stuff is kind of done in the moment. I think other stuff is probably a bit more planned, or, it was filmed a week prior or something. Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the picture slash video. And speaking of the videos, I think we've gotten videos now from Cara Brano and Amy Beth McNulty, and so I feel like those were they came as they were kind of filming episode 2, it looked like, but those very well could have been filmed earlier. Do you know what I mean? Because both those characters are in the final shot of season 4, so we really don't know. Some stuff I think is from the moment, other things I'm like, yeah, this could have been filmed way earlier, and they're just kind of releasing it now, and they're just kind of staggering when they're doing the drops. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on the content.
Absolutely. And then we didn't get anything else for the next 5 days until Wednesday the 7th when we got some stuff from the hospital.
Yeah, and that looks like it's going to be another big set. So far we know the McCorkle farm and potentially other farms are going to be big. We know the junkyard is going to be big, and we know that the hospital, Hawkins Memorial Hospital, is going to be a really big set, at least in the first couple of episodes. I think the farm will probably be a big probably location throughout. And I think the hospital too, because we know that Max is going to be there, and we know that Nancy's stunt double has clothes to double for those some hospital scene based on the pic of the clothing that we got here rather than the video. So I think the hospital and the farm as locations are going to be big. And in this photo drop, we got a picture of the front entrance of Hawkins Memorial Hospital, the waiting room, the vending machine, which definitely felt like a callback to season 3. If the junkyard is a callback to season 1 and 2, and the farm is a callback to season 2, going back to Hawkins Memorial Hospital is definitely a callback to season 3. And in the broadcast channel, they asked people what snacks they'd buy, and promised that we'd see a familiar face on the channel very soon. A lot of people had different guesses as to who that might be. And then on Friday, February 9th, we found out that that person was Amy Beth McNulty, who plays Vicky. So there was a little video of her talking about filming, similar to the one we got of Cara Bueno. And then there was a photo of her with her dog. And then a photo of the reception area of the hospital. Actually, do you want to talk some more about some of the other photos that we got?
Yeah, but first, before I do that, I would like to say that I remember whenever it was revealed, like Amy McNulty, I remember people were just going crazy on the internet because it wasn't who they wanted to see. Okay, they thought they were going to see Max, and I get it, I really do. But like, I seriously doubt that we are going to see anything of Max anytime soon because again, like to my knowledge, Sadie Sink has not been filming thus far. I mean, she could be right now. I don't know, but I know a couple weeks ago she was in London and she was in New York and stuff. So to my knowledge, she has not been filming. I mean, it doesn't mean she wasn't filming on Friday the 9th. Again, I don't know, but again, like I get it. It wasn't who you wanted to, it wasn't who you were expecting, but it's who we got anyway. So content is content. So anyway, yeah, so then we got a photo of a patient room, room number 110, which people have also pointed out that if you reverse that, it's 011, 11, and theory, oh, she's in the hospital, and I'm like, no, like I seriously doubt that they're gonna keep 11 in the hospital for the entire season. You already have one character, Max, one of the main characters like that. You don't, but they're not going to do that. But anyway, so in the patient room, you can see Robin on the other side of the door, and it does look like she is filming in that. And I noticed it is so dark in that room, and so I don't know. I mean, it feels like a creepy scene. Jasmin, we just talked about creepy stuff. I mean, it feels like a creepy scene in there. So I wonder if that's Max's room or somebody else. But then when I saw that, I thought, could it be that Robin, Nancy, and maybe Vicky are volunteering at the hospital, and that's why they're there? Maybe Robin is visiting somebody else, and something creepy and strange starts going on. And I'm pretty sure at this point that Vicky was the familiar face that the broadcast channel was referring to, because she's the only one that and we saw. But then Friday happened, which we'll get to. So then we didn't get anything else for nearly a week up until this week, or the week that we were recording this on Thursday, February the 15th. we got some photos and videos from the Duffer Brothers' 40th birthday celebration, which happy belated birthday, fellas, on set. And they were at a farm in a barn specifically. Another farm, another barn. Uh, some very important stuff going on with that. And then the next day we got on Friday the 16th, we got it was, revealed like this is photos from weeks 5 and 6. We got our first look at Nancy. Yeah. And like this is what I've been waiting for. And I'll be honest with you, Jasmine, didn't think we are gonna get anything of Nancy so soon. But I personally was like, yeah. And it looks like she is filming something. And I was like, finally we've gotten some actual production stills. I mean, this is a good shot of Nancy too. And so far in terms of like a production still that they've showed us, like this is like the only one so far. I mean, they've showed us Robin and Steve and Dustin and Mike in character, but not when they've been like actively filming. You know what I'm saying? But this one of Nancy looks like, okay, this is a shot of like they're actively filming this. Like 'cause she doesn't. I'm not seeing Natalia Dot here. I'm seeing Nancy Wheeler in a scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that quote is very fitting. I mean, she is beautiful and it is really cute. And speaking of season one, I saw other people point this out on Tumblr. Like, hey, it's their first production deal, which is awesome. I'm really curious to where this was filmed because something I noticed when looking at it again is that I wonder if this is at the hospital or something because the door that she's next to, there's like glass, like there's a pane of glass in the door. Like it's not like a normal, do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like something you'd find at a home. It looks more like something you'd see in a hospital. And there appears to be like a magazine rack of some kind behind her. Like it's very blurry because it's not what the shot is focused on her. But I'm curious to know if this was filmed at the hospital or somewhere else. And I also saw someone point out on Tumblr that the outfit combo she's wearing is very similar to Barb's outfit at the pool party. So the denim jacket and the pink sweater. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or if that's a deliberate callback. Like we got that callback in season 4 of Jonathan, like in Jonathan season 1 when he's putting up the missing poster for Will. Wayne, Eddie's uncle, is wearing a very similar outfit when he puts up the missing poster for Eddie in season 4. So we know that they've deliberately done costume choices like that. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if there's something tying whatever this scene is to what happened to Barb. So I'm very curious to see, when the season comes out, where was this filmed? Like, is it at the hospital? And like, is there any significance to her outfit? Or is that just kind of a neat coincidence? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've seen other people talk about that too. Or just, call back to that. But I mean, Nancy kills it on the fashion every year, so or every season rather. So I am kind of liking to see like the callbacks, even with the dress, the wardrobe rather, to the earlier seasons.
Yeah, me too. I mean, she's always a fashionista. I always love her outfits. Even from season 1, like I remember there's a joke with me and my friends about like she wore the ballet slipper necklace. And I was like, of course you must remember to wear your ballet slipper necklace when fighting monsters. It's very important. You gotta maintain consistent. Just because you're fighting monsters doesn't mean you can't be fashionable. Like, and that was kind of like a running joke. And I also I like that about her as a character. I think a lot of shows or movies isn't as common now, but it used to be really common where, in order for a character to be tough and be badass, they have to like give up their femininity and they have to give up all these other stuff. And I always appreciate it when you see heroines who don't, like that's some people's vibe. Like for example, Max, right? Max is a real badass. She's very much a tomboy. But Nancy isn't. She's equally a badass, but or even more so, but she's still very feminine, right? Like she's kept that part of her style. And I love also the scenes where like Elle is exploring that, and I always kind of love to see that kind of interplay between like their personal style, who they are as people, and what they're able to pull off. And I like that Nancy, gets to keep all those things. You know what I mean? Because like there's no one way to be a badass, you know what I mean? So I've always really liked that about her as a character, and I feel like it gives us a lot of insight to who she is as a person,
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons that Nancy is one of my favorite characters. Like, her and 11, my top two characters. But I don't know. I resonate a lot with Nancy. I think it's because she's the more investigative one. Like she loves to investigate and stuff, and I love investigations and mysteries and stuff. So yeah.
Me too. She's probably the character that like resonates with me the most as well. And yeah, she's always. I mean, she's a great writer. She's always investigating. Like, those are some things I really resonate with as well. And I'm super excited to see her wardrobe in season 5. She never fails. She never misses. So I'm super excited about that. And then we got some more photos. So there was a photo of what appears to be Millie Bobby Brown, her arm. They appear to be filming something, and in this photo, it's taken through the monitor where you can see the hair tie bracelet that belonged to Sarah that Hopper gave her when she went to the snowball appears to be broken. And so people online were obviously distraught about that. And I wonder if that's part of what they're filming, or if it just happened to break. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of seems to me like it is part of what they're filming, but it could also just as equally be a red herring and be, oh yeah, the film, like it just broke while they were filming. You know what I mean? I lean to it not being that, but with this show, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's obviously a reason that they decided to show us that,
Mm-hmm.
particular shot. But I mean, if you think about that hair tie has been through a lot.
Yeah,
So the fact that
it's been through the ringer.
it is still mostly intact it speaks volume to the quality of goods back in the 80s versus today. Because today you can forget it. Even it would not even like it would probably like turn to dust today. Like
Yeah, it would
it
have
would.
broken and disintegrated.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I mean that thing would have originated. I mean that thing would have been made in the 70s, and it's now got its way through the 80s. So
yeah, yeah.
it's quality things aren't what they used to be.
You got that right.
Yeah. And then we got a photo of some wall markings and drawings of a little like stick figure and what looks like a taxidermy beaver next to like a saw in a log. And I know everyone was saying it's from Hopper's cabin, but to me, I wanted your thoughts on this actually. To me, that looks more like something you'd find in a museum display because like the beaver plus like the saw, like I can't see why that'd be like. I know Hopper has like taxidermy stuff in his cabin, but like that particular shot seems something like you'd see in a museum. And like the wall markings, like that's more what the vibe it gave me. What about you?
Yeah, I personally don't think it's in the cabin because I mean, so far all the taxidermy stuff we've seen in the cabin are the deer and a fish. So I don't, to my knowledge, we've never seen the beaver before. I mean, I think we know that they could be at least going back to Lover's Lake, based on one of the photos. So maybe they're at the lake house that they were in season 4, out there at Lover's Lake. I mean that would be more fitting in my opinion for a beaver, to be there. But what really interests me is the wall markings. Like that's very unusual, and it makes me think of like a Native American like paintings and stuff. That's what I thought of when I first saw it.
Yeah, like it gave me kind of the vibe of like when you see like kind of like caveman paintings and stuff. It gave me that kind of rudimentary vibe. And so like I know everybody was saying the cabin, but like you, I'm like, yeah, we've never seen the beaver as far as I can remember. And the stuff we have in Hopper's cabin is more like we know his grandfather was a hunter, right? And he built that cabin. So it makes sense that there'd be like a fish and like what is it, like I think it's a deer head, so like that kind of thing makes sense. It seems to be more like stuff that was left over from that time. And a beaver is different, and again, like why is there like a log with a saw on it, and why is there like cave markings on, or what it would appear to be that kind of rudimentary kind of markings on the walls, which is why I was kind of leaning towards like museum exhibit, but I guess it could be decor, although I mean like unless someone's kid drew on the wall, like you know what I mean, like what is that doing there, because it appears to be a wall. It's not like they're drawing on a table or something. It appears to be like painted on a wall. So yeah, I'm very intrigued as to what that's from. Could be something up at Lover's Lake, could be somebody else's cabin and they got some weird taste. Could be a museum. Very interested to see what that actually turns out to be. Also, I'm just picturing, if that is Hopper's cabin, I'm just picturing Joyce's expression. Like I feel like she's gonna be like, the beaver has to go. Why is there a lock? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to picture that conversation. Like,
Yeah, I know.
but also like, I don't think he's letting Elle make markings on the walls. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really fit, right? Because like, like it doesn't quite fit. Like, went from being a hunting cabin to a family home, and it just doesn't really fit to me. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what that turns out to be. And then we have a photo of you remind me of the word for this. There's like a trough, like a hidden trough in what appears to be a barn. I kept calling it a bathtub, but it's not. It's a trough. I couldn't think of the word. It's a trough in a bar, but I kept saying the bathtub, but I know it's not a bathtub. I couldn't think of the word. But there's a trough. There's people goofing around in the trough. I mean, you and I both have the same thought that they're using this as a tub, as a sensory deprivation tank. That makes the most sense. But clearly this again, it's a barn again. So clearly this is an important set for them. And I mean, if Linda Hamilton is playing like a farmer that like owns this farm, I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Because this is clearly somewhere they're spending a lot of time. Like they're not just kind of like showing up to the place. They're clearly spending a lot of time here. And if we are right about that being a sensory deprivation tank, you know what I mean? Like that's not something you could just you can't really hide that. You know what I mean? You can't be doing that on the fly. You have to be spending considerable time there or know that the person isn't around. Unless it's like an abandoned farm, like, do you know what I mean? Like the owners have left town, the town's evacuating, something like that. But even then I'd have to kind of hide from the police. So I'm curious if they're working with, or the owner knows that they're there. That makes more sense to me than like we're sneaking around, because I feel like that's kind of a weird thing to be making a sensory deprivation tank in a trough on the floor while you're sneaking around. You know what I mean? I feel like that's,
Yeah.
that doesn't really, I feel like you get caught really easily trying to do that.
I know.
So then we got a map of Lover's Lake with a big H taped above it. And my first thought was that it was something to do with Hopper's cabin, like they were trying to map it out. But then I remember that like someone, I don't know what the source on this was, but there was somebody who did like a map after season 1 or 2 of where everything was in Hawkins. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know how close Lover's Lake is to Hopper's cabin. I don't really have a good sense of the geography for it, or why they would need to, or why they wouldn't just mark Hopper's cabin on the map. So I don't really know what the H could stand for. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, I really don't know. I kind of thought maybe they're going by like locations of the gates. And maybe like, noticing like a pattern or something, and, saying like, oh, this spells, like spelling out something. But I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, other than Henry, I mean, H can stand, for anything. Henry, Hopper. Some people have said Harrington because Steve, went through that gate in season 4. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously an investigation piece. But yeah, I mean, I don't. This batch of behind the scenes pics, this is really piqued my interest, because this is stuff, it's funny because this is stuff that people are going to be like pulling their hair out trying to figure out, and then when we actually watch season 5, it's going to be like so obvious of what it was, and we're going to be like, oh, okay. I mean, that was so
Yeah, it's either going to be
obvious.
obvious or it's going to be so in the background we're not even going to notice.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I
I
mean?
mean,
Like, like it's either going to be real obvious, like you said, or it's going to be like it's going to go by in the background, and then we're going to get to the end of the season and be like, oh yeah, where was that? You know?
Yeah.
Because some of the pics really do give me that vibe. Like I think this is, if you're right and they're like they've got a map laid out and they're putting stuff on it, then okay, we're gonna see that. So certain things I'm like, yeah, we're definitely gonna see what that was. But other things I'm like, yeah, this could be like the yearbooks. Like to me, I was like, oh, they're looking for something in the old yearbooks. But somebody else was like, I saw someone point out that they were like, this could just be background set dressing, And for all we know, it could be. So there's certain pictures where I'm like, that could be important, or this could just be like the background of a set because we know how detailed they are. And I feel like those things do make good behind the scenes pics to share with us, because it's like we're getting people talking, but we're not actually revealing anything, because by the time we get to when we see the season, it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is in the background. So I feel like those two things are equally possible, knowing this show.
Yeah.
And then we got a photo of what appears to be a crew member in what appears to be a dark room, because the lighting is red. That's what I think it is. I don't see why else. I couldn't think of something else that you'd need that amount of red lighting for. So maybe they've, taken pictures of something, they're developing them, unless they're hiding out somewhere. But again, I can't think of something else where you would need, where the entire thing would be best in red light in that way. And then we got a new marble bowl. There's a video of it, and it appears to be thicker. Like the glass is looks about like an inch versus the other one was very thin, and it appears to be less fragile. And it's got the same lettering on it, so it looks like they replaced the marble bowl. Somebody gifted them a new marble bowl, and it's much thicker. The goal, presumably, is that if something knocks it over again, it's not going to break. And I appreciate their commitment to the marble bowl. Like they could have just been like, you know what I mean? Or gotten something else to contain it, but they were like, we're going to get a stronger marble bowl. We will build it better. We will make a stronger marble bowl to achieve our goal of dropping marbles into the bowl to keep track of filming. Although I feel like eventually they're going to have to get a bigger marble bowl, because I feel like they're going to be filming for a year. I don't think that bowl could hold an entire year's worth of marbles.
Yeah,
So
I don't either.
Unless they're gonna wait till it gets full and then they're gonna start refilling it, or they're gonna get a second bowl. You know what I mean? Like they need more of a marble canteen. You know what I mean? It needs to be a bigger bowl. So I'm invested in the evolution of the marble bowl. It's one of my favorite things. So yeah.
I did have I did have a question though, because that I wanted to talk about, because that was basically it from from Friday. And we haven't got anything since. We're probably not until like a week from now. But I did have a question that in the picture that we see Eleven's hand in. I mean, you can see like in the background a little bit like Millie Bobby Brown like filming. I mean, you don't see Millie Bobby Brown, but you see like her right hand in like the background, because this was taken, someone took a picture of the camera filming it. But anyway, I kind of wonder like where she is at this moment. Like some people have speculated the lab because of the way it looks on the filming camera screen. But if you look in the back, it looks like there's bars in the background. So I'm really curious as to where she could be. Jasmine, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It does kind of look like the lab. But I also kind of want that shot we got where it looked like a control room, and then people thought maybe there's a radio station, like the way that set looked. I also wonder if it could be there, just because of the kind of things we saw in the background. But then there's the kind of bar-looking things, so I don't know. Like, I guess the lab would make sense, but I don't know. I don't know what would bring them back there. If it is whatever that radio station type set is, that would make sense, I guess, if there's like equipment behind her. But yeah, like it's possible. Could be the lab, could be wherever that radio station stuff was. It definitely kind of has that vibe. And something I noticed, like maybe it's a flashback, maybe. But then I feel like that would be the I'm forgetting her name, but the younger actress they had, where they physically playing Millie in season 4 in the flashbacks, and this appears to be Millie Bobby Brown. That appears to be her. So unless it's something like a dream sequence or a nightmare or something like that they were filming, that would make more sense to me, I guess, because I could see why they would be filming there rather than in the present.
Yeah, and two, it's really really interesting, like the way that with the hand placement, because what we see in the picture is her left hand, right? But if you look at the background, we can see her standing up with her right hand, her right arm is by her side. So I kind of wonder, like, what's going on there. Is she like like reaching out or something? I don't know. It's really a very interesting shot.
Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting angle that we get there, and I mean, obviously that's intentional. The stuff they don't want us to see or to make us talk. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of an interesting angle and through which the shot is taken of the way she stands. So yeah, I am also curious as to to where that is and what they're filming. And I'm also curious as to how much of this we even remember when we watch, because
Yeah, yeah.
like in coming to season 4, I think the only thing I remembered, and this wasn't until after I'd completed watching the entire thing, I was like, oh, the fact they'd done the fake casting announcement for Jamie Campbell Bower, I remembered that only afterwards. So Jody, and I can't think of anything that I strongly remember from the promo, like when we actually saw that season. There's nothing I come across, but I wonder how much of this will stand out to us once we've seen the final season.
Yeah, I'm sure like some of it will, like for example, with us being shown like, them giving like pictures of, Mike, Dustin and Robin, Steve and Nancy. That stuff I think will stick out because, we remember, what they looked like and how they were dressed and stuff. So I think, that stuff like that will stick out. But I mean, the little stuff like even with that shot of Eleven's arm, I don't you'd probably just have to look back through the social media post to really, bring that back up and certainly like the stuff like the beaver and all that, like you probably won't even like hardly notice that at all when we watch unless they do a focus shot on it. And obviously like they know that and that's why they're choosing that kind of stuff to show us because they're obviously not going to show us the spoilery stuff, the good stuff that people really want. But they're not, they're not going to do that. And there's honestly like some things I really don't expect to really see until we get our first teaser or trailer. Like I know now people are starting to wonder like when are we going to see Jamie Campbell Power? And I'm like I'm very certain that we're not going to see him until we get our first like actual teaser trailer of the season or the full trailer. I mean, I seriously doubt. I mean, I could be wrong, but I seriously doubt that. I mean, the fact that they're not even showing us even 11 in or Hopper or Joyce or Will in full or Lucas in full costume. I mean, speaks volumes.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like certain things would give too much away. I mean, I could see them doing. I don't know. I feel like anything with Jamie Campbell Bower, unless it's some shot of him just like chilling on set, drinking a Starbucks, like you know what I mean. Like unless they're out of costume, just chilling on set, I don't see what they could possibly show us that wouldn't spoil some because we don't even know what condition his body is after what
Yeah,
happened. We don't know
yeah.
where he is. So I feel like anything apart from him just like, or I guess maybe they could show him something in costume for the way he looked when he was at the lab, like when he was the orderly. I mean, I guess that would be a bit of a spoiler, but the fact that, presumably we know there are likely to be flashbacks. So I guess something like that could be done. But even that kind of confirms we're getting flashbacks. So I don't know. There's certain things where I'm like, unless they're out of costume or their parts of their body are covered, I don't know what they could show us without spoiling it. Like even Hopper or like Elle, like when we see Millie Bobby Brown, like she's she's got like a hat on and there are these big coats. Like you have to they're what they're wearing and how their hair looks has to all be covered. So I don't know what they could. There's some characters where I'm like I don't know what they could possibly show us that wouldn't spoil it and ruin the whole thing. And I like you, I want to be surprised. So I feel like we won't get that unless it's some candid shot of them in street clothes until after we get the first maybe teaser or trailer, and even then we might not. Like I know they did like huge photo dumps of like behind the scenes pics after like volume 2 came out. So yeah, I don't know. I could see more things if people with like their street clothes or something, but not in cost. I don't see that happening. What about you?
Yeah, I don't see that happening either, unfortunately. I would love to see it, absolutely, but I mean, I personally don't see it. I think more than ever, they really are trying to keep this season as close to the vest and as under wraps as humanly possible because I mean, season 4, I remember there were massive leaks about season 4 points that were legitimate that were real leaks and apparently from a former disgruntled employee who worked like in the writers' room. Wasn't an actual writer, but like they had like the staff writers and stuff, and apparently who actually also ran at that time the Stranger Things writers Twitter account. That was like one of the sources of the leaks, and they had some other sources of the leaks. And so I feel like for them, they definitely do not want leaks, spoiler leaks for season 5. I mean, it's the final season, and I feel like they definitely don't want that to happen. And so I feel like unless it comes from them and they choose, okay, exactly. This is what we're going to show people. This is what we're willing to. I don't think they want. I don't think they're going to leave anything to chance.
No, I don't think they are either. So I think there's some things we're going to get, some things we weren't. Although, I mean, I didn't think we were going to get Nancy because I figured anything about her would spoil too much, and we did. So you never know. You never know with this,
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think we were going to get Nancy either, but it was a really wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I okay, so I think that's it all we have for the behind the scenes content that we got so far. We will be back with another one of these episodes after we get the next batch of content. And we'll of course be coming out with our regular episodes on Fridays as well. So stay tuned for that.
Yep. Thanks as always for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
And that's our show. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. Our theme music is provided by Neon Knights, and our sound editing is provided by Ashton Cooper. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Please join us next time, same dial, same time.
Over and out.